Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vidyadravindam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So where are we in our text?
It's the end of
Chapter 17, number 54.
Drishti Sprishti Shutish Shutircha Dharmatir Vigyatirevacha Shuktayo Nyascha Vidyante Chidrupatve Vipadhibhi. The powers of seeing, touching, hearing, smelling, thinking, knowing, and so on, though of the nature of pure consciousness, differ on account of adjuncts.
So we have this relationless relationship between pure awareness, chit, and the stuff of mind, chitta. This stuff of mind arises in a very interesting way. First of all, it is nothing other than consciousness appearing as various modes of perception. Yet there's a forking into subject object. How does it happen? I don't know. Why does it happen? I don't know. But it happens. Just like I can hold up the Tibetan prayer stone, which is granite, it has no power capacity to have an image in it. Antithetically, I can hold up the crystal ball, which is also stone, but it has the property of having images appear in it. Why? I don't know. How does it do it? I don't know. So, when we do our mantra at the end of class, Purnamada Purnamidam, first it says that consciousness, chit, is full. Then it says, this idam is full, meaning the phenomenal world. Here, Shankara is saying our perception itself, all the five senses plus thinking, feeling, etc. And it says, from the fullness of that, the fullness of this has issued forth. Again, all of this becomes easy to understand if we go to the dream state. So at night, I go to bed, I fall asleep. Then my one mind refracts into knower, knowing, and known. I, Jim, am all of a sudden walking down a street, and I have created a dream body, which is a locus of perception, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, emoting, thinking happens within the context of that dream body. And then I see a dream world of name and form that appears separate from me. But otherness is not really there. It's the mind of the waker itself, which is appearing as these elements in the dream. Scripture thunders, this is no different. So Sankhya philosophy will call it Purusha and Prakriti, spirit and matter. But Prakriti means nature. We can say we have Chit and Chitta, pure consciousness and the stuff of mind. The stuff of mind is nothing but images that appear in consciousness. Now, in the fourth chapter of the Mandukya Karika of Gaudapada, he has the very famous example of the Alatha Shanti, the quenching, the pacification of the firebrand. So we have Diwali coming up. So if you have a sparkler on Diwali and at night you make a circle, it is the tip of the sparkler itself which appears as the circle that I see. But I cannot reach out, grab the circle, and use it as a hula hoop. So also, when minding starts to happen, whole phenomenal world of perception, gross and subtle, takes place. And this is the most important part. It is not like fishing line on a fishing reel. So if you're out fly casting, you go, and out comes the fishing line. And then you can go, bring it all back in. So when we have the sparkler and the circle and the sparkler, when I stop moving the sparkler, do I have to wind up the circle? Where does it go? Gone, because it was an optical illusion. It wasn't really anything else but the tip of the sparkler appearing as a circle or a figure eight or whatever. Now, the important thing whatever manifestation appears to happen by means of this chitta, this prakriti, it never alters, changes, corrects chitta. Monday night class, we're doing Panchadashi. Vidyaranya is using the word kutastha to refer to the cell. Kuta has two meanings. It can mean an anvil, or it can also mean a mountain. Statishtati means to be established, where we get the word stand, established, stationary. So the self is kutastha, still like a mountain. All the weather happens around it, but the mountain just isn't there. The anvil, the blacksmith makes swords, barrel hoops, horseshoes. The anvil is still. You and I, over and over and over again, no matter what happens in the world, stop for a moment. Introvert your attentive faculty. Notice the knower. Scripture's thunder. You are unchanged, witnessing consciousness. Oh, so and so was so mean to me. Let me see. Oh, still Brahman, still Chit. Oh, the politics are terrible. Let me look. Oh, I'm still me. Even when death approaches, any thoughts on this? Now, the paroksha jnana, the indirect knowledge, is you hear it from the scripture, you hear it from the teacher, and you may think, oh, that's so comforting. But the aparoksha jnana, the direct knowledge, is you and I must stop our thinking, even if it's just for moments, and notice the knower. See whether or not what the teacher in the scripture is saying is true. Maybe we're lying. You find out. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Apayodbhutihi nathir nityatipyan viratha sarvagya sarvadrik shuddha sarvam janati sarvada. Just as the sun illumines the world with its rays, which are free from growth and decay, so the self always knows all things in general and all particular things, and is pure.
So the sun shines on the earth. It sees, or it illumines the changing of the seasons. It illumines earthquakes. It illumines floods. It illumines growing things. It illumines good people. It illumines bad people. The sun is just the sun shining. It is its nature to enliven everything on the planet. so also I, the self, enlivens and illumines the upadis, the equipment, the body, the prana, the mind. Without it, the body could not function. Without it, energy could not flow. Without it, the mind could not feel. Without it, the intellect could not think. Yet it never changed. Or as Gita says, it is the knower of the field in all fields. ch17, the knower of the field. Now, in our early days of practice, the tradition allows us to be identified with the body, or the body plus the man and the mind. By all means, try to be a good person. Don't be a jerk. Don't scream and yell at the people you love. Practice yamas niyamas. Practice viveka vairagya samadhi guna mumukshutva. But as our sadhana progresses, mind becomes a little purer because of these auspicious practices. Then we start our subject-object discrimination. Then to see, oh, okay, that was a thought, a good thought, it's not me. That was a vicious thought, it's not me. We begin to see when we get out of the mind starts to settle down. Again, Gita says, the mind is the enemy of the person in ignorance. That same mind is the friend of the person of knowledge. When we take up Ishavasya next month on Saturday, the second mantra very clearly talks about karma. Karma is enjoined, meaning we're required to do it. Here, in the context of the Upanishad, it means ritual, but we can expand it more widely to mean all the various actions we do, which has as their goal the ordering of society, the fulfillment of our worldly life, satisfaction of desires, and ultimately the building of character. We're not jerks. But then the Upanishad says, yeah, but that won't give you freedom. That won't give us freedom. Only jnana, knowledge of the self, being identified with the self. Get out. Next verse.
Anya drishti sharirastha stavana matro yavidyaya jalindvadhupa mabhistu tat dharma cha vipapyate. Appearing to be in the body owing to ignorance, and therefore appearing to be of the same size as the body, the self is regarded as different from things other than the body, and possessed of its qualities, like the moon, etc., reflected in water, and appearing to be possessed of its qualities.
So this is Shankara's classic image. So I always imagine Shankara is doing satsang in the cool of the evening because it's hot in Kerala. And there's half a dozen water jars there on the portico. And it's a full moon. You can see the moon. He's there on the porch. And he says to the disciples, look inside the jars. There's 6 moons. But those are Chandra Jaya, the reflections of the moon. They are pratibimba. They are like the reflections in a mirror. And if you disturb the water in the jar, the reflected moon caught in the water. Oh, the moon is broken. Are there several moons? So also it seems like you and me and others. This person is good, this person is bad. Most of the rest of them I don't give a damn about. They have qualities. And it seems like I am happy, I am sad, I am angry, I am peaceful, I am smart, I am stupid, I am successful, I'm a failure. I mean mine. These are the qualities of the Upadis. Conditions, not of the self. Here's a very interesting point, which we covered a couple weeks ago, again in Panchadashi. We have 2 kinds of projection going on. There's the projection, the sankalpa of Ishvara, Brahma, the creator God. And there's the projections that you and I have going on. So the projections of Ishvara are fundamentally neutral. The star Andromeda, can't remember, Alpha Centauri, just is. The supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy is. Mount Shasta is. You and I, then, with the faculty of the mind, superimpose. Mount Shasta is good. Oh, I feel so nice when I'm at Mount Shasta. This valley is terrible, it's so hot. I don't like it. So we superimpose good and bad, virtue and vice, likes and dislikes, onto an essentially neutral creation. Is it bad when a lion eats a deer? No, it just is. Oh, I feel so sorry for the deer. It's my mind. And our suffering comes as a result of our inability to see as God sees. The universe is. And I want it to be nice. It's perfect, which is beyond nice. When we say stop the mind and you stop the world, has two ways of looking at it. We can be talking about samadhi. Samadhi, the mind is not available, the world is not available. In that way, it is like deep sleep. But that's not the highest state. We stop the world when we quit superimposing our projections upon it. See it for what it is. Sarvam kalvidam brahma. All this is verily God. Any thoughts on this? Next verse. Oh, before we finish, understand you're going to have an opinion. Just don't believe it. Do not be so foolish that you confuse your opinion with truth. Next verse.
Drishtva bahyam nimilyat smitva tatra vihaya cha athun milyatmano drishtim brahma prapnodya natvagaha. One who merges the gross external objects experienced in the waking state in the subtle objects experienced in dream, and these again in ignorance, and then comes to know the consciousness of the self, attains Brahman, and has not to follow any path, northern or southern.
So here again is a reference to the very last verses of the 8th chapter of Gita, 7th chapter, 8th chapter, can't remember, where the person who follows the northern path, the path of the sun, the path of light, the first 6 months of the year, if you die, then you go to Brahman. Second half of the year, the way of smoke, the way of darkness, the way of the ancestors, from the summer solstice to the winter solstice. Oh, then you got to come back. Don't worry about it. This comes from earlier scriptures. The truth is, for the person of wisdom, doesn't matter when you die or where you die. Swamiji died in August, second half of the year. Believe me, he does not have to come back. So here, Shankara is saying, for the person of wisdom, that cosmology, those religious ideas, In the winter, the sun is low in the sky. Poor sun. Is the sun low in the winter? No, it's the earth that's changed. The sun is just shining as it always does. So also. Now, let's talk a bit about the teaching that we get. Whatever thought you maintain at the time of death, that's where you're going to go for your next lifetime. There's always two ways to look at that. One, of course, is to take it a bit literally, but understand the thought that happens at the time of death is not just the surface thought. We build that mode of thinking through a lifetime. Krishna will say, those who are thinking of me, go to me. When you see the movie Gandhi with Ben Kingsley, just before the very end of the movie, Gandhiji gets shot. And in the movie, he says, oh God, that's not really what happened. His mantra was to chant the name Ram. And once he was shot, he started to chant the name of the Lord. So he died with the name of the Lord on his lips. Yogis, we can understand that. But the deeper meaning has to do with meditation. The death that the scriptures are talking about is the death of the ego. So when the mind stops, if the attentive faculty is turned toward the self, then the yogi doesn't realize, oh, I, Jim, am now one with Brahman. But the yogi sees, oh, where did that sense of person go? It was there a minute ago. Oh, what name? Aham Brahmasmi. I am that. So don't worry about whether you're going to die first half of the year, the second half of the year. Really, what matters is through our lives, think of God. Drown the mind in Brahman. Worship that. Love it. My disciple comes to me, Krishna says. Any thoughts? Next verse.
प्राणाधेवं त्रिकं हित्वा तीर्णो ज्ञानमहो दधिं स्वात्मस्थो निर्गुणः शुद्धो बुद्धो मुक्तः स्वतो हि सः. Having thus renounced the three states of the undifferentiated, etc., one gets across the great ocean of ignorance, for one is by nature established in the self without qualities, pure, awakened, and free.
So the three states here, waking, dream, and deep sleep, having renounced them, meaning I am not the waker, I am not the dreamer, I am not the deep sleeper. I'm the knower of those three states. Again, going back to the Mandukya Karika, the second chapter, well, the first chapter, the scripture talks about the three states of the mind, waking, dream, deep sleep, and the Turiya, the fourth, not a fourth mind state. It is the consciousness in which the three mind states revolve, the context for them. It's the fourth in our series of discussion. It's not a fourth mind state. And in the second chapter, Gaudapada says, well, actually, we don't have three mind states. We only have two. Deep sleep and dream. You got the daytime dream and you got the nighttime dream. They're essentially the same. Then he says the phenomenal world is quite unreal. The proof of its unreality is that it is seen. In the beginning, we think seeing is believing. The table is real. The chair is real. Aditi is real. God who was a mystery. In the end, it's exactly the opposite. The table, the chair, and Aditi, my experience of it is all mine. What's real is the one who sees it all. That is the only thing we will ever know for sure. Everything else is subject to interpretation, doubt, and mystery. No problem. What's the truth of this world? It's always changing. That's why we call it the Jagat. Next verse.
Agyoham chamaro mrityur jaropya evacha sarvagya sarvadrik shraddha iti buddho na jayate. One is not born again when one knows that one is unborn, deathless, devoid of old age, free from fear, pure, and knowing all particular things and things in general.
So, when we talk about moksha, liberation, it is not that this suffering, tormented sense of individuality, what we would call the jiva, undergoes an ontological change, a change in being. Oh, I'm no longer a finite being. Now I'm an eternal being. I'm running around in space someplace as an eternal being, going thither and hither. No. If who we are is eternal, changeless, immortal. We can't change into it. Otherwise, it would be changeable. So the problem is, I do not know what I already am. It is the mind that is confused. And the five senses, the prana, the mind, the intellect, and the ego sense comprising the subtle body, it stays all glued together as long as ignorance in the mind exists. With that ignorance, I'm driven by the desire for experience, for enjoyment. That's what impels the incarnation. What is moksha? Waking up. I'm dreaming, I'm driving around San Francisco trying to find my house. Somehow I've forgotten how to get to the house I live in. Oh, such a problem. Is it down this road? No. Is it down that road? No. Freedom does not come from finding the house in the dream. When the alarm goes off and I wake up, oh, that was such a vivid dream. Dream body, the dream mind, dream issues. I've always been the waker, just didn't see it. Next verse.
Purvoktam yattamo bijam tannastiti vinishchayaha tadbhave kuto janma pram ekatvam vijanataha. How can one be born again who has known the oneness of the self and Brahman and is sure of the non-existence of the seed called ignorance stated before?
So, the scriptures say that it is identification with the not self and the subsequent feeling of incompleteness, the desires that arise from it, that cause the subtle body, which is dreamlike actually, to move from embodiment to embodiment. The scriptures say, with knowledge of the self, that process stops. Listen carefully. What if they're wrong? Can you or I prove that as true? What if the subtle body keeps coming back forever and there's no end? Or when you die, you're dead. There's nothing. So the yogi must deal with what is and with what's absolutely verifiable. What I know for sure, I am not the body, not the prana, not the mind, not the thoughts, not even the veil of ignorance. I am Sakshi Buddha. What I know for sure, it's craving itself that makes me unhappy. Drop the rock. Then, apparent existence of the physical body or the subtle body is no longer problematic. So there is a state that some yogis get to where they've dealt very successfully with the majority of their desires, but they have some subtle aversions hanging out. They're just annoyed by the world. And, oh, people are so stupid and there's so much suffering, and oh, I can't wait to get realized so I don't ever have to come back again. That's not freedom. So what the yogi wants to do, this is it. Right here, right now. I will tell you how to be at peace with what is. Let it all go. Cease all ambition. Cease all striving. Experience the intensity of the now. What do I know for sure about the now? It will change. So the paradox is, the only person who's free to not come back is the person who knows I'm not here in the first place. I'm watching here. Does not touch me. In the existence or non-existence of the body, the environment, feelings, and thoughts, no longer a burden, no longer problem. Leave the dispensation of the physical body and the subtle body up to the Lord. None of my business. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Kshirat sarviraya thodritya kshiptam tasmin purvavat buddhayaderyagyastatha sthana dehi purvavan bhavet. When the witness is discriminated from the intellect, etc., which are unreal, it does not identify.
That's why the side.
When the witness is discriminated from the intellect, etc., which are unreal, it does not identify itself again with the gross or the subtle body as before, just as butter raised from milk and thrown into it does not get mixed with it again.
Yes. So once we have what Gita calls sthita prajna, steady wisdom, in the subtle intellect, when I have the aha, oh, I'm not a person, I'm the witnessing consciousness. When I get firmly rooted in that, and I don't get confused again. Even if, because of the force of the past, some terrible issue arises and you find yourself reacting, it's always in front of you, it's always out there. Notice the scriptures say the yogi's mind is the same in heat and cold, suffering and pleasure, honor and dishonor. It doesn't say the mind of the yogi, it's always nice and warm, everything is pleasurable, and I'm always honored. It doesn't say that. Say that at all. Next verse.
Satyam jnanam anantam cha rasadeha panchakat param syama drishyadi shastrottam maha brahmeti nirbhayaha. One becomes free from fear when one knows that one is Brahman, which is existence, knowledge, and infinite, beyond the 5 sheets consisting of food, etc., and which is described in the Shruti as not perceivable, and so on.
So that constant discrimination between the self and the non-self. I'm not the she's, the 5 she's, Annamaya Kosha, food tube, Pranamaya Kosha, the energy body, Manomaya Kosha, the mind, the feelings, Vijnanamaya Kosha, the intellectual sheath, which has within it the karta, sense of agency, the phony self, the jiva bhavana, the attitude that I'm a person, even the anandamaya kosha, the bliss sheath, separate from it all. Then it frees me from what I call existential fear. Nothing's going to ever touch me. Now listen carefully. Well, what if I get really frightened when I'm dying and stuff like that? I tell you, the fear does not touch you. You tell me which causes more injuries to the body of the waker in bed, a pleasant dream or a nightmare? Oh, but the nightmare was so scary. Uh-huh. But did it touch you? Well, it felt like it at the time. Uh-huh. But did it touch you? Well, it sure seemed like it. Did it touch you? No. So do not fear even your own ignorance. Even when we get triggered, even when we get all plugged in and act like a jerk. By the way, if you dream that you are a Mahatma sitting on a mountain, and all these people are coming to get your wisdom to you, does that touch you, the sleeper in bed? So don't get identified with your apparent spiritual successes either. Don't try to be a spiritual person. That's what Trungpa calls spiritual materialism. Our spiritual practice itself becomes another possession. No, you are Brahman. No, you are the eternal witness, Sakshi. Know that you are Kutastha, immovable. Next verse.
Yasmad bhiti bhitaha pravartante vamana pavakadayaha tadatmananda tatvagyo na bibheti kutashana. That knower of the truth of the bliss of the self has no cause of fear whatsoever. For afraid of him, the organ of speech, the mind, fire, and so on act regularly.
So, in that wonderful verse in v56, after Shankara has talked about the qualifications of a fit student, there's one verse that talks about the qualifications of a fit teacher. Shrotriyam, as wields and means of knowledge, not afflicted by desires, who's a full knower of the Supreme. And then I love this next one, who has retired into the Supreme. So as the mind of the Jnani, the Jivan Mukta, more and more abandons the world and deep, deeper into the bliss of the self, this Atmaramana, this Brahmananda Rasa, this Paramasukha, the supreme sweetness is happening. Now, we have talked earlier about what I call the ruthless rule of the mind. The mind will pursue whatever has given it the greatest joy, the greatest juice. Food, is it attention, is it sex, is it drugs, is it approval? Thank God. God is the most beloved. But we all be screwed. The more we can revel in the self. The mind then easily lets go of trinkets and baubles of the world. Listening to some friends the other night, young, in their 20s, they're talking about going to the white party. This is this fabulous party where young people in their 20s who are all buffed and muscular, and oh, it's, yeah, they do drugs and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, some of us who are a little older were thinking, can't think of anything I'd rather not do. You have a different playground. And remember, God is the most beloved. Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee. The most famous sayings of St. Augustine. So true. Next verse.
Namadibhya pare bhumne swarajye chetstito tvaye pranamektam tadatmadyo na karyam karmana tada. Whom should the knower of the self salute if he is established in his own glory, which is infinite, non-dual, and beyond name, etc.? Actions then have no utility for him.
So, I love this idea. Namo namami, salutations to myself. So the ordinary person pranams, does salutations to parent, to teacher, guru, maybe before the idol. But when the yogi sees, oh, those are all just partial representations of the bliss of my own self. The scriptures say, for the man or woman of knowledge, there is no need for any ritual, any practice. Now, there's a story about Swami Tapovan Maharaj. He walked all the way from his little kutia, his hut in Uttarkashi, all the way to the Sharada temple, which is now currently in Pakistan. I have no idea how long a distance that is, maybe 1,000 miles. Long way. And when he was in Sharada, which is a very, very famous Devi temple, it's now essentially in ruins. The Pakistanis have not kept it up, and it's been just damaged by earthquake. But we're going back to the early part of the 20th century. And he hung out there singing the praises of the goddess, getting blissed out. And the fool might say, well, if he's a man of knowledge, the scripture says he doesn't need to do that anymore. It did not add to his knowledge of the self. That's just his idea of a good time. Worldly pleasure. That's all it is. Now, when I was in Jaipur in 2015 with my friend Dave Duck, we were hanging out at his guru's ashram. Every evening they would do arti. Guru Dev, he didn't participate. He has no need. He sat there in his chair reading the newspaper. I had no need to participate, but I did. I did out of respect for the disciples and the devotees of the Guru. I participated because it was the polite thing to do. It did not add to my knowledge. It was good manners. You see the subtlety of this. Any thoughts on this? All right, one more.
Two more, actually. They're two together.
Okay.
Virandeva Shvanaro Bhyayaha Smarannanta Prajapatihi Praviline Tu Sarvasmin Pragyo Vyakrita Muchyate Vachara Mapurna Matra Swatas Sushupta Ditrikam Tas Svat Satyo Gyaschaha Mityevam Satya Santho Vimuchyate. The externally conscious individual, which is one with the aggregate of the gross bodies, and the individual, which is conscious internally only and one with the aggregate of the subtle bodies, are both merged in the individual experiencing deep sleep, which is one with the undifferentiated. As the three states, deep sleep, etc., have words only for their support, they are unreal. The truthful man, therefore, who knows that he is existence, Brahman, gets liberated.
Yes. So the highest is not a mind state. This is why people who do drugs get stuck. If it occurs in the waking state exclusively, that isn't it. If it occurs in the dream state, and by that we mean also any drug-induced state, that isn't it. Why? Because it has a beginning and an end. It is subject to change. It's not eternal. Of course, deep sleep, both the dream world and the deep sleep, the waking world, get merged into the avyaktaha, the unmanifest. Two is an object of awareness. What's real? What is that by which the waking state, the dream state, the drug state, even the deep sleep state is known, which is never known as an objective experience. That is not unknown, it's me. Well, so what, Jim? gives us existential freedom. When I realize that's who I really am, then the stupid stuff in the mind no longer fascinates me. I give up concern for mind states or experiences. I deeply understood how Buddha calls it the Four Noble Truths. Life, the way most of us live, it sucks. Dukkha. What is the cause of it? The cause of it is craving, wanting, ambition, striving. Freedom from that craving is freedom from suffering. I prove it when I satisfy a desire, and most especially in deep sleep. Noble truth number 4. Marga Satya. The way to be permanently free from the affliction of craving, of attachment, identification. Marga means road or path. Realize your own self-nature. I am not touched by any of the machinations of the mind. When I renounce struggling itself, I find that I'm finding peace. Yet it's so simple. All right, we'll quit here today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all.